Welcome to Cluedunnit, the podcast where we make wild guesses about fake TV crimes.
And discover real facts about the amazing people who brought the shows to life. I'm Jessica, IMDb Maven, and the person who reads everything in a theater program.
And I'm Jacob, writer, producer, and senior lead detective, Logic Cop Investigations.
Whoop, whoop.
Each week, we watch a show and try to immediately guess whodunit, without any clues, context, or apparently accuracy.
Then we spoil everything. We not only tell you who did it, but also who made it.
And since watching TV is always better with friends, tell us your guesses, scores,
and will actuallys
at Cluedunnit on Twitter and Facebook, and Cluedunnit Podcast on Instagram.
All right, let's find out.
Who was right?
Who was wrong?
And who is dead?
Okay.
So, what are we doing this week? Who do we got this week?
Today we are watching Grimm.
Grimm! Hooray for Grimm! Grimm was described as a fantasy police procedural. But basically what it boils down to is, suck it, Disney, you don't own fairy tales. You're not the boss of me.
Yeah, this was NBC's middle finger, I guess.
Yeah. ABC had Once Upon a Time, which debuted the October 23rd or something like that in 2011, and then Grimm debuted like 5 days later.
Yeah, October 28th.
There you go. See, that would be 5 days from October 23rd. I'm glad I remembered that correctly.
Yeah, good job. Wow.
Research, it pays off.
I wonder if actors auditioning at that time were like, where am I going for this?
Which one am I doing?
Show?
There's something about fairy tales in the real world. Which one are you on?
Is it
I
the
just
girl
got cast
from
as the lead.
House?
I just got cast as
did.
the lead. Oh man, that would have been a great little bar scene. We'll come back to that. We'll workshop that in the second part of the show.
Okay.
But yeah, so Grimm follows our hero Nick, who's just a regular old detective on the Portland police force, until one day he discovers that he's actually descended from a long line of Grimms, as in Grimm's fairy tales. Fairy tale creatures, apparently, named Vessin, have been hiding among us this whole time, and Nick is able to see them. And of course, bad Vessin, like the big bad wolf, exist and are behind a lot of gruesome murders and crimes in Portland. So, the dream of the 1790s is also alive in Portland.
Oh my God.
Thank you. I went a long
Jacob.
way for that one.
I
walked a long way for that joke.
Oh my God.
There's a lot more in show mythology. They developed a lot of rules and mythology and stories over the 6 years of the show. We don't have time to go into all of that. So just understand, fairy tales are alive. They're doing crimes in Portland. Cop solves modern day fairy tale murders. Bam. That's all you need to know.
So, well, I am curious, though, because we didn't watch all the seasons. Do they cover the Brothers Grimm? Because it's the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales. Oh, all those S's, I'm sorry.
All those S's, it's quite all right.
Possessives. Right, it's the Brothers Grimm.
It is the Brothers Grimm. There were two Brothers Grimm.
Do they cover
yes.
that, like his ancient family?
I don't know. I didn't see anything about that. I know that, family comes in and out. At one point, one of the people in the show, who we'll get to, but at one point, one of the people in the show is literally an Austrian prince. Like,
really?
Yes, a bastard prince. And I'll let you guess which one it is after we deal with all this stuff. But yeah, like the Baroque mythology and family ties through this whole thing is just insane. It's really great.
Yeah. It's also hilarious to me that this is all taking place in Portland, Oregon. Like,
why is okay? Now, see, I think that makes perfect sense.
It
why
does?
Is yeah.
I mean, like Grimm's, that's Germanic, right?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So they all just came over and traveled the entire length of the United States, and were like, Portland seems nice.
I don't know why there are perhaps more in Portland, but yes, they talk about immigration and, like, again, the character, I'm just going to say it, the police chief is actually a bastard son of a king. He and his mother fled to America when they were trying to kill him in the old country. And there is talk about certain characters, like how they came over from Europe, but like literally there are scenes that take place in Austria.
Oh my gosh.
It gets Baroque.
Okay. Wow. All right.
So, do you want to talk about anything before I start talking about the cast?
Well, I was just going to say 6 seasons, 123 episodes. We're watching it on Prime.
We're watching it on Amazon Prime, and we are watching season 4, episode 11.
Yeah. It's called Death Do Us Part, and it premiered January 30th, 2015. The episode logline, scroll, is Rosalie and Monroe finally go on their honeymoon. Nick and Hank investigate a shocking homicide at an abandoned and supposedly haunted residence, and Renard seeks help from a mystical woman.
There you go. So
now
that is
let's
a
find
whole
out
lot
who
of
these people are.
Yeah, that is a whole lot of names that you know nothing about.
Unless
maybe.
you watch the show.
Unless you watch the show. But so for people who don't, though, let's talk about who these people, who is on our crime fighting team, or in some places, the perpetrators of the crimes. Okay. So as previously mentioned, Nick is our lead. He is a Grimm. He is the one who can see the fairy creatures, but who is not a fairy creature himself. This seems a little weird to me. Like, if fairy creatures can tell each other are fairy creatures, why does there need to be a special human who can tell that fairy creatures are? I don't understand it, but there you go. Before the start of the show, he couldn't. His aunt dies. Somehow the power gets transferred into him. Who knows? I take that back. I'm sure they talk about this in the show. We just didn't watch all the episodes. In any event, he learns he can see who these fairy creatures are, which again they call Vessin and other crazy words. But he is a cop. He's a homicide detective. He's your basic square-jawed, morally upstanding guy with an overdeveloped sense of responsibility. That's, he's your standard TV cop. Good guy.
Yeah. Nick Burkhart, his actual last name is not Grimm, is played by David Guintoli. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Sure.
He is born in Wisconsin, moved to St. Louis, went to a Jesuit high school there, St. Louis University High School, and he went to University of Indiana, I think, some school in Indiana, and got a BA in finance. And then decided to move to LA and be an actor.
Sure, because that's what you do. It's the classical study finance and learn all the things about the money you won't have because you're going to be an actor.
Except that he was on a hit
He was
TV
on a
show.
hit show for 6 years, so never mind. Now he can manage his money. Good for him.
His first credited roles were in 2007 on The Ghost Whisperer and Veronica Mars.
Yay!
And then in 2008, his career kind of just blew up. He had like 10 credits in a year, which very rarely happens for new TV actors. Usually you have like 2 credits and that's good. And he had like 10 in that one year. And then shortly after that, in 2011, he got Grimm. And now he's been on 3 seasons of A Million Little Things.
Oh!
Which is about a group of friends who their friend dies and it inspires them
Spoiler,
to live their life.
He commits suicide.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, but you learned that in the teaser.
Oh,
so.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, he's on 2 successful TV shows.
Good for him. That's Nick. He's our cop. His partner on the police force is Detective Hank Griffin. He's not the only person of color on the show, but he might be the only character on the show who doesn't develop any kind of superpowers or get touched by fairy magic or change into any other thing. He's just a straight guy the whole way through. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, he's just eternally stuck into being the straight sidekick.
Huh. So Russell Hornsby plays Hank Griffin, and
by the way, I want to cut in for a second there. Hank Griffin. Great name.
Yeah, last name Griffin, a mythical beast.
Yes.
And they never do anything with
Not
that
I could
for
see.
6 seasons?
For 6 seasons?
That's crazy. He was born in Oakland. Woohoo!
Hey,
Shout
some
out!
Bay Area love.
Yeah, he went to St. Mary's College High School in Berkeley. He was a football player. Then he went to BU for undergrad.
Wow,
and
that's
then,
a leap.
Yeah, and then he went to grad school at the British American Drama Academy at Oxford.
Ooh.
And then from there he moved to NYC, to New York, and he did a lot of theater, including To Kill a Mockingbird and Jitney. And
he was in Jitney.
Yeah, and
fantastic.
he got an Obie Award and a Drama Desk Award for his role in Jitney. And then he did, of course, Law and Order and all the
You're in New York
shows.
and an actor. You're going to get in Law and Order.
Yeah, and then he moved to LA, and his breakout role, pretty immediately, was a doctor on Gideon's Crossing with Andre Bauer from Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah. Eventually went on to Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah.
And then later on,
24.
So Russell Hornsby has been on a million TV shows. Like,
That's fucking fantastic.
And like so many episodes. Like, he'll have arcs, or he's a lead, or like I said, Gideon's Crossing. And then later on, he did Lincoln. He was in the movie Fences, which is directed by Denzel, isn't it? Fences?
I think you're right. I think it was, yes.
And then he was in Big Fat Liar, and he was also in Creed 2. He must be a super nice guy. And, I'm partial because he's from Oakland.
Absolutely. So, of course, Nick has a love interest. And, of course, she's named Juliet, because true love forever. Her character goes through a lot. Like, a lot. At first she doesn't know Nick has superpowers, but then she does. But then she gets amnesia, but then she remembers. But then in season 4, due to magic and hand waving, she becomes one of the bad guys and tries to kill Nick. But she, in turn, is shot and killed. But she comes back in season 5. The actress plays a different character with all of Juliet's memories. This line from Wikipedia describing how just let me read this line to you. Her ability to feel emotions is returning after Nick healed her with a stick. That's it. Healed her with a stick. Period. There's no description of how or what even happened or what the stick was.
Stick? His personal stick?
Maybe they do. I don't know. Like
his, or as they say in Game of Thrones, his pillar and stones.
I don't know. All I know is she feels her emotions returning after Nick healed her with a stick.
Still stick.
Still stick.
Okay.
So Julia, she's loyal, supportive.
Is this when she becomes Eve? Because on
yes,
IMDb
it's when
Eve.
That is when she's
okay.
Eve. She's Eve in season 5 and 6. So
I'm sure when you're watching the show, you're like, oh yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, when you read it, it's the summary. Okay.
It's ridiculous. She's loyal. She's supportive.
Okay. So Juliet Silverton is played by Elizabeth Tulloch. Tulloch. Her big breakout role was Sam Foreman's Quarter Life, which was 20 sort of experimental TV episodes.
Okay.
I didn't read a whole lot about it, but it sounds like it was really cool. And they expected it to just sort of be like this small indie thing. And then it got picked up by NBC. And she is currently famous for being on the CW and playing Lois Lane in all of their DC TV shows. Oh,
cool. That's neat.
So she played Lois Lane in The Arrow, in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, in The Flash, and Supergirl, and more.
Oh, well, they're also doing a new Lois and Clark show. I wonder if she's in that as well.
She is in that as well.
Okay, great.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Her breakout role, this is crazy, was in R2-D2 Beneath the Dome, which is a mockumentary produced by George Lucas about R2-D2.
I had to hold my breath to stop from laughing so hard I would cut you out there. That is fantastic. So who is she in that?
I'm sorry, I have to look that up. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine. That's your homework, dear listener. Look up who she was in Under the Dome.
Yeah. She used to go by the name Bitsy Tulloch, which is not, I thought, everybody apparently thinks it's usually, that it's a
nickname?
Diminutive of Elizabeth, but it isn't. It's actually it was her grandfather's nickname. He was a fighter pilot in World War II. And
that was his
call sign.
He was Bitsy. Come in, Bitsy. How's the bombing run going? Well, we had some big bombs and we had some itsy bitsy bombs.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to find out why that is. And she is married to her co-star, David, who plays Nick.
Really?
Yeah, and they have 2 kids. Or they have multiple kids, at least. They have more than one.
That is lovely. That is good for them.
Yeah.
And they're both
she
working.
might have been pregnant during the show.
I wonder maybe if she got some episodes off and that was part of the whole, she disappeared for a while and came back as somebody else.
And became Eve.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
If you know, let us know. All right. So there's Juliet. That's the romantic interest. And of course, Nick has a friend on the fairy side of things. Sorry, Vessen's side of things. And that's Monroe. Monroe is a wolf-like Vesson who plays he's the funny sidekick and font of all things exposition. He's a wolf. He would be a big bad wolf, except he keeps that side in check through Pilates and building clocks. He's big and he's goofy and he's a hoot. I love him.
Yeah, he is really a hoot. And I was like, why do I recognize this guy? Well, he is a very distinct character actor. And I, turns out, recognize him from one of his very early works. He is in like every freaking TV show imaginable because he is funny, but he can also, that can like really cross into crazy. And so you can really get him, he can really play like drama, like kind of like a psychotic kind of, I'm sorry if that's an offensive word, but he can do both sides of that fence there, and horror. So it gets him a ton of guest stars, and he's on a lot of procedural TV, CSI, Nash Bridges, NYPD, Mentalist, etc., 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 etc.
Excellent. Cool. Well, Monroe, is married to Rosalie, and she's the resident nerd. She's a reformed criminal / drug addict who runs I'm not kidding. She runs a spice shop and apothecary. She's the one who's like able to consult old books and spells and explain some woo-woo stuff like, well, I found this spell, and if we use this hat and do this at the full moon, we'll be able to reverse you losing your powers, but you're going to have to change her into somebody else and sleep with your mortal enemy, but it won't be your... She's that character.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm sorry. She is also a Vesson, and she turns into a fox person.
So Bree Turner plays Rosalie, and her dad was a pro football player. He played on a lot of different teams, and they eventually settled in Northern California. She studied dance at UCLA, and I think while she was there, she auditioned and got a ton of roles, and she had a very distinguished career as a dancer in film, TV. I think she did concert tours, and she did all the khaki commercials for Gap.
Oh, yeah, when they were doing all the swing dance and everything. That phase.
Yeah, but she decided she wanted to be an actor. So she went to London and studied acting, and then she came back to the U.S. and started getting a lot of roles in comedy. And so I think that's probably why she's great on this show and great opposite Monroe, because they're both funny.
Yeah, they're both the comedic foils of the show. Yeah. Absolutely.
So she got her breakout in Deuce Bigalow and then Sorority Boys.
All right. So, in addition to, over 6 seasons, there are layers upon layers of bad guys and relationships and who's bad who and who's made alliances and everything. And that's not even talking about the monster of the week. But there is one bad guy who starts out bad and is a foil pretty much the entire season. And that is Nick's...
show?
On the show, yes. I'm sorry, for the entire show. Yes, and that is Nick's boss at the police department, Captain Sean Renard. So in literature, Renard the Fox is a hero of these medieval kind of like poem stories, which kind of satirize daily life. Right. And he is the Encyclopedia Britannica. I didn't just go to Wikipedia. I went to Britannica, people. So the Encyclopedia Britannica says that Renard is sly, amoral, cowardly, and self-seeking, although sometimes his cunning is a necessity for survival. And Renard in the show is all of those things. He's literally two-faced because he's also he's not a Vesson. He's a Zauberbeast, which is like a male warlock who can change forms, but is also magical. But he pretends to be an ally to Nick while simultaneously plotting against him. He's a good villain. He's one of those slimy, no good, eminently capable, dangerous bad guys that you just love to have
really
on the
dangerous.
show.
He was going to kill Nick and his aunt
in
the first episode.
Yeah, in the first episode. He's already gunning for him. So yeah, no, that's Captain Renard.
Wow. Well, Captain Renard is played by Sasha Ruiz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I apologize. He was raised in Montreal. And he went to is it the Guildhall? I think it's the Guildhall School of Drama in London, which is a famous acting school. And he has done a lot of procedurals, Castle, Warehouse 13, NCIS,
Wow,
Taken,
he was in
Lucifer.
Castle?
I mean, episodes.
Episodes, okay,
like
yeah,
guest
yeah.
stars. Lately, he's done a bunch of episodes for Suits, for Departure. He was in a couple episodes of 911. And he's done movies, most notably to me. He was in Pompeii, which is a Kit Harington vehicle. So I kind of want to watch it. But it's funny to me that he's from Montreal, and so he probably has like a slight bit of like quote unquote foreigner accent, and so that always makes in America they're always like
mysterious,
really mysterious and villainous. And he has a look, like his face,
oh, yeah.
like he can play villainous very easily. So yeah, that's him.
All right. So there you go. We're watching season 4, episode 11. Do you want to hit us with a log line one more time, see if it makes any more sense?
Yeah. Rosalie former
and Monroe,
dancer, and Monroe, the
wolf Vesson.
Wolf. So he's not a werewolf, he's just a wolf?
He's not a werewolf. He doesn't turn into a wolf under the full moonlight. He can be this wolf-type creature, yes.
Oh, okay. They finally go, like Red Riding Hood.
Yes.
Okay.
But he is not the big bad wolf from the Red Riding Hood episode.
Right.
But that is how...
Yeah, that is a challenge of this show, is that if you start watching it and you're like, oh, here's a fairy tale, then you're like, well, I can kind of guess the ending. Yes. But you can't, because you haven't necessarily met the...
Right. Yeah. But there are definite clues, like, oh, this is the fairy tale they're going... On the other hand, to call these fairy tales, or like to think that they're ripping off a fairy tale, is no. They're very liberal in how they adapt the fairy tales. So
yeah. Oh, okay. So Rosalie and Monroe finally go on their honeymoon. Nick and Hank investigate a shocking homicide at an abandoned and supposedly haunted residence, and Renard, the captain, seeks help from a mystical woman.
All right. We'll be back with some guesses.
So we just watched...
Here we go. We just watched
the beginning of the show. And we watched it right up until the credits, which we knew in a lot of these TV procedurals, that's as far as we would probably watch, because that's as far as you get with the first murder.
And honestly, it is our perfect chef's kiss kind of way to do this, because
yes.
Here are some characters. Here's who's dead. You know nothing. Go, because personal tagline, my like phrase around all this is, clues are for chumps.
Oh, well, we originally called the show Wild Ass Guesses.
Well, that's true. It was originally one.
We still were like, what does that mean? What do any of these names mean?
But what does any of these names? But yes, but there you go. So we know nothing. This is what we know. Okay. What we know is there is a group of ghost hunters, college-age ghost hunters. One white kid, one male, one white female, and one black guy. And they are 3 of them all heading into this haunted house. The white guy kind of looks like Dean from Gilmore Girls, also from Supernatural, but he's not Dean in Supernatural. His brother is Dean in Supernatural. In any event, kind of looks like him. He's pretentious. The other 2 characters kind of give him a gentle ribbing, and they're all like, we're going to cut around that. They go into a house. The legend of the house is that there was a couple who lived inside it, and they were found murdered, electrocuted, just zapped to a blackened husk, all wrapped up in each other's arms. Teeth exploded out of their skulls, like nasty. But then apparently the husband, the male in this formula, somehow is still there, haunting the house, trying to find his love.
Yeah. And
they're going to go in, and they're going to try and find this ghost, and no matter what happens, they're going to keep filming, because that's what these ghost hunters do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Nick has come home, but Juliet is not there. Juliet is worried because she's turning into a...
Juliet is not there. She is secretly at Renard's beautiful freaking, oh my God, you can afford that as captain of the police force in Portland, home. And she is showing him, to his somewhat horror, how she turns into this
I
A
think it's called a
witch?
Hexenbeast. She's a
Oh.
witch. She's not exactly, she doesn't turn into like a fairyland animal, but she has other powers, and she's kind of a witch. So yes, she turns into I think it's a Hexenbeast is
Yeah,
what she
it
turns
sort
into.
of is reminiscent of the Red Witch in Game of Thrones when she takes her necklace off and all of a sudden she's 300 years old and you're like, oh.
Yeah, she's not super old, but she looks like a corpse, and she looks like a kind of a zombie, kind of an evil zombie kind of
Yeah.
thing going on there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we
And
don't know.
she's like, what's going on with me? I don't know. It started happening when you. And then there was all this exposition about things that have happened in past episodes that we don't know about.
That we don't know about, but like apparently Renard's mother started this whole thing when she put a spell on her to help her get Nick's powers back. Who knows? That's kind of what's going on there. I may find more about that. Monroe and Rosalie are off. It's not Rosalie, is it?
Yeah.
Monroe and Rosalie are off on their honeymoon. And then we go back to the ghost hunters. And the ghost hunters are in the house, and they do the classic Scooby-Doo thing of everybody, let's split up.
Yes.
Don't split the party, people. If Dungeons and Dragons has taught us anything, don't split the party. They split the party. Doofus goes upstairs, proclaiming pretentiously the whole way about how there is danger up there, so he must go up there. Meanwhile, the other two characters stay downstairs. They all turn on their electromagnetic frequency meters, so they're like, if something's going to happen, we're going to see it right here, and we promise we'll keep on filming. So they go out to their various rooms, and they suddenly see that power is coming on, flickering in these rooms. The lights are coming on and flickering. The stove is turning on, and the needle on their EMF meters it's just buried. It's in the red. It's never been in the red before, but it's in the red.
Yeah.
Now they're getting really freaked out. They don't know what to do. It's genuinely a very tense scene.
Yeah,
It's very nice. It's a lot of fun. And while this is happening, something attacks the doofus upstairs. He gets attacked, and like lightning or electricity comes from the body, goes into the doofus's body. Everybody's screaming. They're calling to like get out of the house, and the people downstairs like get to the bottom of the stairs, and doofus's body is thrown to the bottom of the stairs, charred to a crisp, electrocuted. Everybody screams, and teaser.
Yeah. So
There you go. Oh, and one final thing. So the show always starts with a quote from a story that they're kind of going to be riffing on while they're doing this. And so today's episode is brought to you not by Grimm's Fairy Tales, but by Leo Tolstoy. The quote is, "He felt now that he was not simply close to her, but that he did not know where he ended and she began." It's from Anna Karenina, I believe. I think that's what it is. Anyways, I have never read Anna Karenina, so I don't know. But that's what that's what the Google says. It's from Leo Tolstoy. So there you go. That's what we know. Let's get to some guessing.
yeah.
And I just want to like. Okay, so what have we got? We've got Tolstoy. We've got an affair. We've got, because I think Anna Karenina is about an affair. I think that's what's happening in Anna Karenina. There's some kind of like
And we know that the episode is called Death Do Us Part.
death to us part. So there's some kind of relationship on it. And we also know there's electricity. That is what we know. And so we just got it. My problem is that I won't say that I read all of Grimm's fairy tales, but I read a lot of it. I read a lot of those ones.
And you said there are many.
And there are many. And I don't remember anything to do with electricity. Partly because like when this was like the fairy tales were collected, first published in 1812. So they were collected the previous 10 years. So they're all being collected in like 1800 in like rural Germany. Like these are folk tales. These are not like courtly tales. These are not educated tales. These are folk tales, which means that like keep in mind electricity. Ben Franklin was doing experiments with electricity in the late 1700s. So like electricity is not really a known thing. Lightning would be a known thing in fairy tales. Anyways, but this isn't even a fairy tale. This is Leo Tolstoy. So there's some kind of like affair happening or some kind of like love triangle. Because, like, why would the husband be killed with the wife in his arms, but then still haunt the house trying to find his wife?
Yeah. I mean, the suggestion is that the wife is with a lover.
Right. The wife is with the lover. Or, like, the lover got jealous and went and ended up killing the wife for being with the husband or something. I don't know.
That sounds more like
more like something Hollywood would do?
No. Oh,
Newsflash.
Well, no, who's the guy? Chaucer.
Chaucer.
It sounds more like a Canterbury Tale.
Yes, the Miller's Tale.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. So yeah, it's some kind of love triangle. There's got to be some kind of love triangle, and either the husband killed both of them and is now trapped there, or that's what I got. What have you got? I've been talking a lot. What have you got? Girl?
Okay, so the thing is that when the electrocution happens of Roy or Ray upstairs,
was Ray the kid upstairs, or was Ray the kid downstairs?
I think he was the guy
Let's
upstairs.
just call him Doofus. Because he's definitely a doofus.
I think that might be an offensive word now. I don't know.
Okay, when Shaggy Hair Man upstairs.
Yes, when not Dean.
When not Dean. Yes, when not Dean gets killed.
Yeah, when he gets killed, we actually see a shot of the thing that is killing him.
Yes,
and it is a being who looks sort of short and is in a red and black checkered like flannel shirt.
Wow, you noticed the flannel shirt? I did not notice this at all.
He has a green head. Like full on alien jerky.
He's a lumberjack alien.
Alien from like that when you buy jerky on your way when you stop in Baker from LA to
Vegas. Yes, yeah.
He looks like the alien jerky guy. So I know there are no aliens in Grimm's fairy tales. I know there are no small green men from Mars.
Are you saying there are aliens in Tolstoy? Is that what you're saying?
No, this is Grimm. This show was originally called Wild Ass Guesses.
Yes,
so
it was.
I have no freaking clue. So I'm just gonna go with Alien.
Alien.
The alien had been befriended by some adults out in the woods, and the alien lived with these people and accidentally electrocuted them, and is now waiting for his home ship to come pick him up, like E.T. style. And time is different for the alien, and so he's stuck on this planet by this house waiting for eternity. I guess he gets out, and so that's why he has lumberjack shirts. I don't know.
He raids the closet for lumberjack shirts.
Yeah, occasionally. But yeah, otherwise he's sort of like Bigfoot. He's just sort of like a Bigfoot waiting to be picked up by aliens.
So your guess is an alien Bigfoot with electrical powers.
Yeah.
That is a swing herd. Alien Bigfoot with electrical powers. That is not just putting a hat on it. That is putting a hat on a hat on a hat. I love it.
We've been seeing a lot of those kinds of storylines.
We've been seeing a lot of them. Oh, that's just your typical alien Bigfoot with electrical powers story. Whatever. What a old cliche in the book. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl. They both get killed by an alien Bigfoot with electrical powers. We all know that one. Tale as old as time.
It's just a new twist.
That old chestnut man. Okay.
I was watching Fantasia 2000 the other day, and it opens with whales that fly and then are taken to the alien mothership. Like, I'm sorry, that is just a hat on a hat on a hat. What the F?
We're not here to talk about Fantasia 2000. No.
Okay, I know. All right. I'm just saying, if those kids from CalArts can do it,
so can Grimm.
I'm here.
I'm here for it. Okay. Wait, but you got me thinking about kids, though. So what? You got me thinking about kids. Okay. I've got two things here. One, maybe it's not a lover's triangle. Maybe it is. Okay, so maybe it is that the husband and wife didn't know that they had these like fairy powers somehow. Like it was latent in them. You know what I mean? Like it just skipped a generation. They don't have the fairy powers, but it was like a recessive gene. Like they both carried a recessive gene for red hair and fairy tale monster. And the kid didn't get red hair, but did get fairy tale monster. So like the parents ended up giving birth to this kid who had these special powers, but didn't realize it. And somehow, like, they got into a fight, or the kid had its first temper tantrum or whatever, and just these electrical powers just came out of it and just zapped the mother and father and killed them both. And that's why he stays there, because he's not looking for his lover. He's not looking for his wife. He's looking for his mom. He's looking for his dad, and he doesn't know what to do, and he doesn't know where to go. So there's that.
Are you going to stick with that?
No. Well, here's the other thing.
Have another.
I do have another one. So what if they were doing, like, they knew that they were witches. They knew
husband
that
and wife.
the husband and wife were witches.
Witch and warlock.
Witch and warlock, sure. But they did know they had powers, and they were trying to do some kind of, like, I'm not going to call it sex magic, but they were trying to do something where they would create, like, another, like, they were so in love, they were so enmeshed in each other. They wanted to create, like, they literally wanted to create one creature out of the two of them. Like, they wanted to somehow, like, Voltron into one thing, and they were using this magic, and they did. It worked. Somehow they, like, invoked this power and this electricity, and it blasted their physical forms, and it created this other creature that is now trapped to this. But because it's just so freaking weird being this one new thing instead of the two people, it's, like, kind of like little, like, schizophrenic. It's crazy. It doesn't know what to do. It's trapped in this body. It doesn't know what it is, and it's just lashing out and raging and trying to separate once again back out into each other. So what if they created this, like, hybrid monster of the two of themselves?
I like that. Oh, I like that. If that's not the story, you should write it.
Okay. All right. So we've got alien Bigfoot with electrical powers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's mine.
That's yours. Or we've got they were trying to do a magic spell to create a third being, and they're both somehow trapped inside that third being.
I really like that. I hope that that's what it is.
All
I'm
right.
rooting for you.
No, I'm rooting for you. This Bigfoot alien.
No, you're not. You want to win.
You're darn right
I know
I do.
you.
You're darn right I do.
Jacob.
All right, we'll be right back. There's a phrase, and I think I may have already used this on the pod once before. It's called being too clever for your own boots.
Oh.
I'm not sure what exactly it means. It just means you're making things a little too complicated. I guess that's kind of easy to do for a mystery show. Sometimes you make things complicated. Sometimes you just don't need to. Yep, it was just a love triangle, people. It was just a love triangle, and there was a Brazilian monster with the powers of electricity, and it was the spurned husband, and he killed the lover and the wife. Thank you and good night. That's it.
Yeah, no aliens.
No alien
No
Bigfoot with
aliens.
electrical
No
powers.
Bigfoot.
No love magic trying to create this third thing that was then, like, haunted and trapped. No, it was just the spurned husband got angry and killed his wife and her lover when he found them in bed, and then was posing as a homeless man because he couldn't let it go. So he just walked the neighborhood as a homeless man and kept returning to the house to sleep at night.
Yeah.
That's it. There you go.
That's all.
I mean, I could give you the whole episode recap, but no, we're not going to recap. We're just going to say that Nick and Hank find the wife of the man who was involved in the love triangle, and she says she knew that he was cheating on her with this other wife, and so she went to tell the husband, and she never would have told the husband if she knew what the husband was, because she knew the husband was this monster with electrical powers, or this Vessin with electrical powers, and she never would have done it. And so she's convinced that it's not the husband and the wife who were found dead. It was the wife and her husband, the man she was cheating on with, and the real husband Stetson came home, found them, killed them, and was just somehow wandering around, still there. So she went to the house to kill Stetson. Nick and his crew showed up just in time after learning how to defeat the horrible monsters, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce, and they defeat the monster. Yay. End of show. I will say, this I really liked. I really liked this. The only way to defeat this monster is to take... So the monster is Brazilian, and the only way to defeat it is to take this dried skin of a poisonous frog, so the skin of a frog that is poisonous and has been made into this powder. You have to rub the powder into a paste and then put the paste into the hole that you make in an ear. So you have to pierce your ear and then rub the paste into the ear, and somehow this makes you immune to electricity. Electricians, do not try this on your next job. This is a pierced ear will not protect you from electricity. Please don't do this at home. Maybe, we'll say that. Maybe you have, so unless you're a Grimm and you know this for certain, take proper precautions around electricity.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So,
So
and then there's other storylines, going on with
Juliet is turning into a hex and
Juliet.
beast witch, and she doesn't know how to fix it, and something is happening to the captain, and the captain is having bullet holes on him. I'm sure it would mean something if we'd watched the whole
appear
season.
and disappear and bleed and stop bleeding.
And Monroe and Rosalie, literally, they show up once in one scene, FaceTiming with people, and they're like, "Wait, is everything okay?"
Yeah.
So they know that something's wrong with Juliet, even if Nick doesn't. But Nick kind of knows.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing is the guy who was upstairs and killed, fried. The ghost hunter. His character name and the actor's name actually are both Ray.
Oh.
Like Ghostbusters Ray.
Yes, like Ghostbusters.
Except that Ghostbusters Ray lives and this
guy did not live. And besides, he's not a
Fried.
Ghostbuster. He's not a ghost hunter. They make it very clear that he's a ghost seeker. They are ghost seekers because everybody needed to know that we are not stepping on anyone's trademark.
Right. Okay.
Don't sue us, bro. So there you go. That was the episode. Once again, we have struck out, although I have to admit, it was valiant effort. I'm sorry. I'm like alien Bigfoot with electrical powers. I still let him. Sorry, that is still.
Yours. I still liked yours.
We're going down swinging. We're going down swinging. Wild ass guesses. We don't promise a lot. We do promise wild ass guesses. All right, so now that you have all the spoilers, we're going to talk a little bit more about some people and things in the episode that maybe we didn't want to talk about at first to give anything away. So, Jessica, tell us what you've learned.
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't like giving it away or anything, but just to talk about the creators real quick. Well, actually, let's talk about the director. This is his only episode of Grimm, but he has done so much Law and Order, like every type of Law and Order. So many episodes. So it makes me think maybe he just didn't have time to come back and do
maybe he
any
didn't.
other episodes.
They kept booking me on Law and Order.
So I'm just gonna stay in New York and do Law and Order. Because otherwise you got to go to Portland.
Yeah, you got to fly from New York to Portland, and that's just who wants to fly overnight?
I mean,
that's just no fun.
Yeah, Portland's beautiful.
Portland is beautiful.
Take a weekend in Portland, but anyway,
we highly recommend Portland.
Maybe he had family, didn't want to be far away.
Sure.
So the creators were Stephen Carpenter, David Greenwalt, and Jim Koof. And Stephen, I mean, we just briefly say he is also known for The Power, which is about an Aztec doll that curses the people that come in possession of it, and another show called Blue Streak, or maybe that was a movie about a convict who poses as a cop. And
oh yeah, that's a Martin Lawrence movie, isn't it?
Is it? Oh,
I think that is. I think it's a Martin Lawrence movie.
Yeah.
I watched that New Year's Eve 2000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he tries to go steal it back. So
Yes.
he's one of the creators. The second creator, David Greenwalt, he's also known for a movie called Prophet, which is about using any means necessary to get ahead, including bribery, blackmail, intimidation, extortion, etc. And so I assume he is presumably in this because he's an expert on crimes.
Sure, absolutely.
And
if there's one way I can tell that anything overlaps, it's serious crime drama and Brazilian electrical monsters.
Okay, well, all right.
I mean, you really need the law expertise for that. I mean, how else would you have known that you have to pierce your ear?
I'm not saying he's a lawyer. I'm just saying
he knows from crime.
This was his thing that he was.
I swear to you, people, like I loved that. I did love the pierce your ear bit where they have to pierce the guy's like, I'm not piercing my ear. Works for Hank. All right, I'll pierce my ear. And they do. They before going into the literally it's the climax of the episode. Before they go into the haunted house, he's like, "Oh shit, I can't go in. I have to pierce my ear." And they're piercing the guy's ear before they go into the shop and before they go into the house. And Carol, who's one of the ghost seekers?
Yeah.
Carol is like, "What are you doing? What kind of cops are you?" It is a really great pause for humor moment. It's really nice.
Yeah. And the third creator in this for the show is Jim Koof, and he has also been he is known for National Treasure. He is the creator.
I have seen none of those.
Written screenplay and created the characters, and I think some of the other ones might have some other writers involved, but he's credited all the way across for all of that.
What do you know?
And he was also one of the first writers on Rush Hour. Both the movie and the TV show that has been recent. All three of the creators are credited, along with Jeff Miller, who has written also for shows The Event and Trauma. So there are two other interesting producers that are in this show. Sean Hayes from Will and Grace is a producer on this show. And also Helen Pye from Gilmore Girls. Gilmore, famous because she struck up a friendship with Amy Sherman Palladino and by the end of Gilmore Girls was pretty much doing everything. And the character Lane Kim is kind of based on Helen Pye. Interesting side note.
Stuff. There you go.
And anyway, but the people that I really wanted to talk about on this show are the hair and makeup people. And I just
all the shout outs
quickly want to give a shout out to everybody on the team, but I particularly want to talk about the special effects people. So just real quickly, the makeup and hair team, heads of department, Karina Woodcock and Laura Hill are heads of department in makeup. And then in hair, Doreen Van Tyne. And then staff makeup and hair artists and stylists include John Gardner, Ruth Ann Lutz, Terry Lodge, Autumn Sanders, and Ann Sellery. But special effects makeup by Mike Smithson and Barney Berman. Okay, these guys. So Mike Smithson, as far as I can tell, has worked on so many interesting things, including Avatar. He was, I think, head of department makeup creator in Avatar. I mean, the blue people. But his first thing that he ever did was Captain EO.
What?
Yeah, he was a sculptor and cosmetics person. He also worked on Teen Wolf. He also worked on Ghostbusters. He is uncredited but he did body effects on Patrick Swayze for Ghost.
Wow.
He also worked on Jersey Boys, Pirates of the Caribbean, and he got to play a Klingon helmsman in Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
That is fantastic. I love that.
And he was nominated many times by the Makeup and Hair Guild for Grimm and for other things. Now, Barney Berman is, as far as I can tell, something of a legend in makeup and hair.
Okay.
He is also the son of legend Thomas Berman, who is one of the creators of the Planet of the Apes makeup.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
John Chambers, it was the primary designer of the Planet of the Apes look, but Thomas Berman was his assistant and has done many interviews for it. Now, it's interesting because Barney Berman, who worked on Grimm and is a special effects artist on Grimm, he was the makeup artist on the latest Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and his father still works too.
Really?
Yeah, so
sure,
he's still alive and still doing film.
Why not?
And he still has credits, but Barney took up the mantle with the new Planet of the Apes. So Barney Berman, he was an actor and a makeup artist.
He was an artist. He's the artist of the makeup artists.
On Star Trek III, The Search for Spock in 1984.
Spoiler alert, they found Spock.
But he played a bar alien. It's hilarious. I was like, oh my gosh, what other kind
bar
of acting?
alien.
I think it's just a thing. Like, if you can do somebody else's makeup, it's really because you wanted to do makeup on yourself and you wanted to make yourself look awesome. And so it's like
you think,
all
okay,
these
sure.
makeup artists are like, doing themselves up and going in. And
I also think it's a fun little
cosplaying on stage.
That I think is more like, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, who can say?
Who can say? But I do love the idea of all these makeup artists being like, I'm going to get in some alien makeup and just be a bar patron over here.
Yeah. So his career has spanned every genre of comedy, music videos, action adventure, sci-fi, thriller, horror, of course, TV and film, including X-Files, Angel, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, like I said, Planet of the Apes, Men in Black, the Jackass movies, Matrix Reloaded.
The Jackass movies?
It's kind of crazy to me that he's worked on the Jackass movies.
Okay.
Because is he putting fake,
I think what he's doing in those movies, I know in one of them, Johnny Knoxville gets made up as a really old guy and wanders around as an old guy with like his robe open and his testicles hanging out of his boxer briefs as a really old man. So I wonder if Barney is responsible for Johnny Knoxville's testicles hanging out of his underwear.
Probably.
He's probably, at the very least, he's responsible for making Johnny Knoxville look like an old man.
Yes, yeah. He also worked on Dawn of the Dead.
Good job with the testicles, sir.
Good job.
Well done. I think that just needs to be done. Like, how many people can you say this to? Good job on the testicles, sir. Like him and probably the makeup artist on There's Something About Mary. Good job on the testicles caught in the zipper, sir. Or ma'am. How many other times do you get to say that? Tip of the hat. Good job on the testicles.
Yes. He's also worked on Chuck, Dawn of the Dead.
I liked Chuck.
The 2009 Star Trek. What do you call that? Like the reboot? The one with J.J. Abrams?
Oh, yeah. The alternate universe, whatever one that was.
Dawn of the Dead. Did I say that? Mm-hmm. Tropic Thunder.
Oh my goodness.
And as of late, he did the latest Borat.
Definitely some makeup in that one.
Yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. So here's another thing about him. He is also a film producer, director, and writer. One of them is called Wild Boar, followed up by Barney Berman's Wild Boar, with the tagline, "A small group of treasure hunters, also known as geocachers, trek into the desert to conquer a geocache challenge. Out in the wild, they stumble upon a forbidden world flooded with radiation and inhabited by bloodthirsty mutants who have evolved from pigs." He also wrote
That's a great translation. Great transition there. He also
wrote a film called Piranha Sharks.
You're doing the Lord's work, Barney. You are doing the Lord's work.
And Piranha Sharks. This guy, and he also has the coolest IMDb photo. Like, the coolest. I'm going to show this to you, and then everybody needs to look it up.
We'll put it in the notes.
Right?
He looks like an old Alaskan fisherman. No, not Alaskan, New England. Definitely some grumpy old New England fisherman.
But who's a painter, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah, definitely a little bit of a Van Gogh look right there.
Van Gogh. He totally has a Van Gogh look there.
Yes.
I wonder if that's even, if he's
definitely referencing some kind of like, yeah. That is hilarious. It's
kind of where your beard is going, honestly. Anyway. Yeah, so this guy, The Bomb, he was nominated also by the Makeup and Hair Guild for Grimm and some other things. And he's awesome. We saw him do two characters in this episode, the Ghost, and which looks like an alien.
Which turned out to be the Brazilian electrical monster, yes?
Sorry. Yes, correct. And then the Owl Lady.
The Owl Lady was really good. Like, that was, like, it was, like, not only was, like, the makeup and the, like, was it done really well, but, like, the actress they cast for it, like, they made her, like, making her up look normal to then also look owly when when you transform into your, like, fairy self or your, like, monster self, it's called wogging in this world. So when she wogged into being an owl person and then wogged back to reality, it's just well done. Well, like, she looked really good as an owl, and even like as a real person, how they made her up to still have that owlness about her was really great.
Yeah, and these characters, I don't know how it must feel for them, because it seems like every episode when they do Wogue, it's so short. It's just this, like,
yeah, it's a really quick
flicker, and then that's it.
Yeah. And then they're not in that makeup for a long time. So that's interesting, because you got to figure, I mean, I would have thought that they were doing this CGI, but if they're doing like the actual and I'm sure they are doing CGI for the transitioning, but like the final bit, if they're doing the final bit with practical makeup on these people, just think about that. Think about how many hours these people have to sit in a chair and sculpt this makeup, this look on them for literally, it's less than a minute of film.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's really fantastic. So that's some interesting stuff on that. On
Bonnie
show,
Berman. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the show. Don't overthink it. And that's the lesson we learned today, which is really funny because last week we definitely didn't think it enough. This week we overthought it too much. And Well, there you go. Lesson learned.
No logic. Well, the logic cop segment, if we were going to do that, that would probably the ear piercing, I think.
Well, no. The logic cop. The logic judge is ruling that is totally not a logic cop situation because within the world that they have created, absolutely, I'll give it to them. Okay. Absolutely, 100%. Yep. Pierce your ear, put this on their comedy. Like, at no point are you going to say that wouldn't happen in reality. Well, none of this would have happened in reality. So you know what I mean? Like if I think for a logic cop or something like this, it would have to be something like, wait a minute, you said she was an owl. Why is she now behaving like a fox? You know what I mean? Like that would be a logic cop thing for something like this. But like just the fact that he had to pierce his ear, I'm going to give them that joke all night and day.
What's the thing called? The trailer that they have is still silly. I mean, it's really enjoyable. I love that set, but it's gigantic. It's way bigger. Oh, the trailer. Yes. Okay.
I got confused there. You're not referring to a trailer like a movie trailer. So yes, in this world, Nick I almost called him a witcher. Nick as a Grimm, as a monster hunter, has a trailer, like an old 60s Airstream aluminum trailer that on the inside is outfitted to be like your English alchemist's library with like old leather-bound books and all sorts of medieval weapons and a spice rack that spins around that has, well, wouldn't you know, dried frog paste. But yes, there's one of those things where it's like, that trailer is not that big. This is absolutely a set. Yes, okay, I will give you a logic cop for that. That trailer wouldn't be that big on the inside. Sure, yes.
Yeah.
You win logic cop. I'll give you this
Whenever
collar.
they go into that trailer, I am always like, God, such a beautiful set. It is not in that freaking trailer. And I think it was a little silly. I mean, it's so much fun, but it's silly that he just walks over to this spinning spice rack, which, you know, in my house would have like, in my growing up house is what I mean, would have like old cream of tartar,
some turmeric that hasn't been
used, forever. Maybe some pumpkin spice that had been used in like 1979. But you know, on his, it's dried frog paste and some other things, and he just spins it around. Yeah, it's just sitting out on the table,
and somehow labeled well enough that he'd be like, "Oh, there it is, frog paste."
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of not spirits. What's the stuff that you put in? Bitters. Yeah, it looked like a thing of bitters.
That's hilarious. Here's some bitters. What I want to see is he just took some highly toxic chemicals, rubbed it into a paste, opened a wound into his body, straight into his bloodstream, and put it in there. I want to know, he's going to be tripping balls in about an hour. He's just going to be like high as a kite, having some like crazy mind expanding experience.
Yeah, he just goes back to work. He just goes back to work.
Yeah, there's just paperwork. I want to see how that paperwork gets filled out. That's my tag to this one. Nick, what do you mean by the walls are melting rainbows? That's not a crime, dude.
Totally.
Let's spin the big wheel. Right. And what are we watching next?
We are watching Prime Suspect.
Ooh, what is that?
Starring Helen Mirren.
Lovely.
It's a female detective who is investigating serial killers and dealing with her sexist work comrades. And it's, I think, one of the things that made her super famous.
All right. Helen Mirren solving murders. What could be better? See you then.
See you then. It would not be a what?
I think it was a parallel reverberant surface, I think is what I said. Yes.
A parallel.
Sound gets reflected everywhere.
Protuberant.
Parallel protuberant surface. Maybe that's the name of our podcast. And welcome to Parallel Protuberant Surface.